I'm going to call tonight's meeting to order. All rise for the flag salute.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And now let's have roll call.
Councilmember Murray.
Present.
Councilmember Ryan.
Here.
Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Present.
Mayor Matsumoto Wright.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Here.
Councilmember Sonmore.
Here.
And Councilmember Woodard.
Here.
That concludes roll call.
Thank you. Are there any late changes to the agenda?
Hello, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can hear you. We can hardly see you.
Yeah, it's washed out a little bit. I'm sorry about that. If I turn the light off, nobody will be able to see me. But did want to mention on your consent calendar this evening that the ARPA reallocation memo is there. There have been a few changes because of invoices that are coming in at the last minute. We're trying to get all of our vendors to get those invoices in before the end. So we did end up with a little bit of extra money. And what we've requested as part of that memo is to allow myself to delegate that or designate that money before the end of the year so we don't lose any of it. And if council would like to discuss, you can pull it off the consent agenda or continue on. But I did want to highlight that fact for you before you voted on the consent agenda this evening.
What are the council's wishes? Is anybody? Oh, okay. All right, then we'll talk about it at the consent agenda time.
Okay.
All right, so we can add that to that. Next is public comment.
So no one has signed up for the general comment, but I believe Aaron will be speaking during public testimony.
And that's during the public hearing.
During the public hearing, yes.
Anyone else for public comment?
No one else has signed up to speak generally.
All right, thank you. Then we'll move on to consent calendar then. Mayor Pro Tem. I thought I just did. Does anyone want to move any items from the consent calendar? Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to approve the consent calendar as provided in A through D.
Second.
So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is the Proclamation for Constitution Week. And I've got it right here. I am going to read this at over there. Sally Buckingham, would you like to come up and stand next to me? All right, I'm going to read the proclamation. It's the City of Mountlake Terrace Proclamation for the U.S. Constitution Week, September 17th to the 23rd, 2024. Whereas September 17, 2024 marks the 237th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to read, study, and preach the greatest document of human liberty and to protect the freedom set forth in the Bill of Rights, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize the patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion. And whereas The Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States designating September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, on behalf of the Mountlake Terrace City Council, do hereby proclaim September 17th to the 23rd, 2024 as Constitution Week, and encourage all to read the Constitution and reaffirm the values of community identified by the framers of the Constitution in 1787. Signed by the mayor this 19th day of September 2024 in the city of Mountlake Terrace, state of Washington. So I'm going to present this to Sally Buckingham of Mountlake Terrace, as you have been a part of this in our city for so long.
16 years.
Yes. Do you want to say anything?
I want to thank the city and its commissioners for supporting us in the proclamation, because it's very important. And next year, in 2025, we will be celebrating 250 years of freedom in this country. And we, the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, are very proud of that, because each of us has a patriot who served for our freedom in the American Revolution. I thank you. Dear Jennifer can send it to me. Okay.
That would have been very planful.
Okay, so next is the public hearing and vote on the ordinance adopting the Economic Development Strategic Plan with our city manager, Jeff Knighton.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. You received a presentation from on the Economic Development Strategic Plan last week from our consultant, David, and he's here with me this evening as well. We don't have a long presentation for you this evening, but I just wanted to go back over some of the items that were contained in the presentation last week and highlight those. First, we are going faster than the state and the county, and we've added 13.6% population over the last decade. And this plan is building on efforts that that the city undertook in 2019, and again is tied in with our comprehensive plan that we're working on, and that you've heard presentations on previously and will continue to through the next several weeks. The goals and everything are outlined in the attachment of the Economic Development Strategic Plan, and that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Do we have any questions or comments? All right, I don't see any. So that is the end of the staff presentation?
Yes.
All right, so Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to open the public hearing. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Public hearing is now open. Has anyone in the audience signed up for the comments on this matter?
Yes. Kirk, you'll have 5 minutes to speak at the podium.
Hi, my name is Kirk Ishizaki. I think everybody knows me by now. I'm the property manager and a member of West Plaza, which is just a minute's walk from here. We have continued to voice our concerns that the intent of the community and reflected by the City Council is not being reflected in the town center plans. The Economic Development Plan has alarming language that subverts the intent of the City Council, as voiced again during last week's City Council's work session. We have been in contact with the City of Mountlake Terrace staff and have pointed out specific areas of concern, such as Action 3.1A in the Economic Development Plan, and have provided alternative language that better reflects the City Council's intent. I'm afraid that our concerns have not been heard, and the city is going to push through the Economic Development Plan with 0 changes. Please do not pass an economic development plan that does not reflect your intent. Thank you.
Next is Aaron Ishikazi. If you would like to speak, you have 5 minutes.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. My name is Erin Ishizaki. I'm here on behalf of West Plaza as well. And as Kirk just mentioned, we're concerned regarding the Economic Development Action Plan, strategic plan that so we're concerned that we're not being heard by the city, as Kirk said. We've continued to do our best to keep up with all the things the city is working on, which is a lot this summer and fall. And we heard just now that the strategic plan for economic development is also part of the comprehensive plan updates. We've done our best to participate and when we can make comment and be involved in the public process. And we're trying to get our questions answered in a timely manner because, you know, you have a very full agenda this fall. We would love to get questions answered, concerns and public information to us before plans are adopted and before codes are updated and before council decisions are made. So an example is we asked council in June at the hearing for the condemnation of property for the 56th improvements. We asked council at that time to delay that decision in order to help facilitate answers to questions and in order to let staff, you know, spend time to talk directly with businesses, residents, and property owners that were impacted, and that didn't happen in June at that hearing. Last week at the council work session, you all heard my comments, thank you. And in that case, I was asking you to consider making changes to the economic development strategic plan to match the intent you expressed about 57th only happening if and when. And so I'm here again to ask if you would consider delaying adoption of the economic development plan until there's time for staff or for us to be able to understand some of the questions and concerns that we have. There's a few specific questions that we did provide staff, as Kirk mentioned. Thanks to Carolyn Hope for reaching out to us to ask for some clarifications. And I wanted to just quickly walk everybody through and describe a little bit more about what those concerns and questions are. The language in Action 3.1A in the plan that is up for adoption tonight, states that that the city should implement the 56 improvements, but also that the city should implement all the other actions in the town center sub-area plan. And so I just wanted to clarify for everybody, the reason that that's concerning to us is because one of the actions in the town center plan is showing 57th being extended through the West Plaza property and through our shops and businesses. And last week I heard staff and others say, we're only doing this, 57th if and when development happens. The reason that I'm really confused is because the city currently has a consultant that they're paying to design Main Street phases 2 and 3, phase 3 being extending 57th through the West Plaza buildings and shops and restaurants. There's already a approved project that is underway right now, sequentially in phases. Also, Main Street phases 2 and 3 were recently included in the update of the Transportation Improvement Plan, the capital plan, in February of this year. And so I am not understanding how the city's actions don't seem to be consistent with this statement of it will only happen if and when in fact you have consultants, staff actively working on the project. So wanted to just really highlight the fact that it feels rushed. We don't feel heard. We would love and ask the council to consider slowing down your process in order for a more democratic process of information gathering and us to understand and be able to work with you all and or at least get some answers regarding these confusing actions by the city. We would hate to see you continue to update these new plans and create this new economic development strategic plan in such a way that where it doesn't feel like there's time to be able to answer some of these questions and concerns.
Your time is up and
Thank you.
a while back. So I'm sorry. I had to say something. Are there any others?
No one else has signed up, and there's been no other request to comment online.
Okay, so do we have any questions for the staff?
Is that all right? Or do you want to close
Comments or-
public hearing first?
I'm just following this. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
So is it moved and seconded to close the public hearing? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The public hearing is now closed. And now we can ask questions of this.
We should put a motion on the table and then have discussion.
Do I hear a motion?
Are we there yet? Let me just look at something real fast.
So do you want to have a motion to approve and then have discussion?
Yeah, motion, there's a motion on the table, discussion.
Is there a
and then
motion?
whether or not you want to invite amendments or postpone or anything like that, you just have to have a motion on the table for further action.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor. In order to do the process properly, I move that we adopt the Economic Development Strategic Plan as presented.
Second.
Second.
Now,
All right, and so now we're going to have discussion.
So I just had some comments, and I'll just try and sort my thoughts here real quickly. So I was part of an economic development plan, I think it was about 2007, 2008. And the council was so involved with that plan that we had already thought about how we were going to mark our sidewalks, how we were going to name our streets, how we wanted things built, how we wanted wedding cake buildings built so it wouldn't block out all the sun on the street. And we also talked about 57th a lot. And so I just wanted to, I should provide more background, and I didn't bring a book tonight on that, but 57th was brought up and a couple other streets because at the time, and then I'll go on to an amendment, but the way our city is built, you have 56 and 58 that support your downtown. So with the limited amount of traffic that can go through there, we had to come up with a plan on how to make traffic flow. And we were going to have some of the streets not go all the way through for a night market or other things and events. And that was what was brought up at the time and has still made sense. But I've talked to a few of the people that you're talking about, Aaron, and I know I'm not supposed to address you, but I'm bringing that up because the way that our city flows, it's going to really limit on what can be downtown. I'm not saying we have to have 57th or, you know, I understand that works, right? And so we don't want to really take something that works and put a road in it. But I think we have to look at maybe an amendment or talk about alternative flows to downtown, because I know when I drive on 56 and I get behind a school bus, I don't go very fast. And am I going to want to shop downtown when I can zoom to Linwood, you know, depending on where you live in the city? But I think it's something that needs to be talked about. I think it's something that we all have concerns about. We all want to do what's best for our residents and our business owners. So that is something that has to be talked about because it's been on the books for, 2024, since 2008, and that has been on the books for several reasons. The other thing is the economic development is ripe for picking. And the one thing that I have learned extremely well is you plan, you plan, you plan, and otherwise you're going to end up with a hodgepodge mess downtown. And so this economic plan has more room to grow than ever before because light rail's here now, and we're growing faster than Washington State. That is extremely scary to me. And I think that the one missing link to this plan is when I was involved in it before, it was all council. And that's the one thing, and I'm not blaming anything, it's just my way of communicating and feeling involved in a project. I don't really feel like I own this the way that it's, I like what's been presented. I understand, I took all my notes from the last meeting about the housing, and I appreciated the, I'm looking at my conflict notes, but I appreciate all the different elements that went into the plan. I think the piece that is missing is, I don't feel like I own a piece of it. I don't feel like I was involved enough in the process, and anybody who was involved, I'm just talking for myself and understanding it a little bit better. I understand that it needs to be done, and Brian, I'm not trying to delay, but I want to feel some ownership in it. I want to feel like I understand the plan completely enough without Aaron having to tell me I need to go to 3.1A to understand the plan and to see what they're concerns about. I just think that piece of the plan is missing for me, is council really diving in, having workshops, maybe going to another city to see how it was built, or they had their economic development plan put in place, because I feel at this time, this is our one last shot. If we don't do it right this time with our economic development, those buildings are already going to go up and things are already going to happen, because it's going to happen one way or another. It hasn't happened real fast in the past because we didn't have light rail. We don't have a real good infrastructure, and that goes back to 57th. If we want to talk about that and feel like we have ownership in that, because I've talked to a couple people about 57th, and they're like, well, it can't go through. And I'm like, yes, it can, you know, and I think people have been looking at it going through. And so what is our alternative to looking at downtown and having traffic flow through our downtown so we can have economic development there? So that would be my amendment piece, is having a little bit more of, we have a consultant built this for us, and last time the council built it. And I think that's where the one piece is that maybe it would help us have a little bit more time. And I'm not looking at blame. Please don't think I'm looking at that. I'm just trying to find a happy medium so I understand concerns in the community about what's going on and how we're looking at our comp plan and our economic development and considering concerns, but also understanding the traffic flows and what we need to look at. So that's my speech.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Sonmore, for addressing that issue. And I agree, more time needs to be spent on 57th and fully understanding what the city and what the concerns of the community and the issues that have been raised by Aaron and the West Plaza folks and businesses there as well. And I do have a suggested amendment that helps, that draws on Aaron's comments from last week, and I would like to put that on the table for 3.1A to help address those concerns and allow us more time to delve into the process and understanding how 57th will work. And then also following up in working with folks about 57th in the future and how other elements of the comp plan are being processed, and if there's areas there that we need to address as well. So, but for now, for the economic development element, I'd like to suggest an amendment that helps us address.
Can we talk about your amendment for a minute? The only reason I would make an amendment to your amendment is I'm not trying to give anybody false hope that that's not going through. I rather, instead of saying action 3.1A, I'd like to understand the traffic flow patterns, and maybe it would open it up to a little bit bigger and broader comp plan coming in, because I think if we just address 56 or 57th, it might not be a wide enough scope. And if we just all of a sudden say, oh, we don't want 57th, then what's our backup plan? So I think maybe you had already thought about that, but I just was opening it up.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Let me put the amendment on the table and see if that works. I think it addresses your concerns and what you're looking at. It was, again, suggested by Aaron previously, so so hopefully it addresses their concerns as well, and allows us to spend more time looking at 57th and other opportunities.
Oh,
so let me put the motion on the table if that's okay.
Can we add a little bit more to it? Sorry.
Here, I'll give you the language. Okay.
Oh, you already have something written down?
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So
Okay, go ahead.
Let me propose an amendment to 3.1A.
Sorry, she's giving me dirty looks down there. I'm just like, okay.
No, just, it's all right, it's all right. All right. To change the language to read, complete implementation of Main Street Project Phase 2 improvements along 56th Avenue West to maintain the city's commitment to redevelopment in the area through improvements to the public realm, and evaluate other future town center investments identified in the town center sub-area plan for their alignment with their other economic development goals and the city's role in them. Yes. And I did forward the language to Jennifer, so she has it for the record. But I'll slow it down.
Please do.
So if everybody goes to 3.1A, and you're looking at the language that's currently proposed, which is infrastructure investments and public realm improvements in town center continue to catalyze private investment. Sorry, there's a 3.1A further down here. Here it is. So go to page 37. I think it's 37.
34. Oops,
Oh,
sorry.
because I have an
Is
older
this one?
draft.
Is it the report one?
This is what you're looking at?
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, 34.
Page 34, because I have an older draft, sorry. What's that? You asked me to go to something.
I'm sorry, report, that's report one,
What is your link?
page 34, report one, page 34, 3.1A, to read, complete implementation of Main Street Project Phase 2 improvements along 56th Avenue West to maintain the city's commitment to redevelopment in the area through improvements to the public realm and evaluate other future town center investments identified in the town center sub-area plan for their alignment with other economic development goals and the city's role in them.
Point of clarification.
Go ahead.
How is that different than the vote on this ordinance anyway? Thank you.
Do you want that repeated then from, how is it different?
Do it again? Okay. First of all, I'd like to have more discussion before we get to the amendments. And then the question is, with that amendment, I'm not hearing any difference between that and the actual ordinance adoption. So I must have missed a word or two. So if you could redo that, thank you.
Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so the ordinance adoption is adopting the Economic Development Strategic Plan as presented. So if you look at
Difference, please.
and the difference is, again, so look at,
What is as presented?
so as presented is, so go to the, thank you.
3.1A.
So go to report one is the Economic Development Strategic Plan. Under strategic plan strategy on page 34, look at strategy 3.1A.
I'm sorry, I'm in the PowerPoint.
Oh, okay.
I have it at page 37.
Yeah, mine's 37 also.
Mayor, if I may, in the version that's attached in your packet, the Economic Development Strategic Plan, it is page 37, strategy 3 and action 3.1A.
Okay, that's what I
So if
see.
you go to that plan, the attachment, report 1 that Mayor Pro Tem Wall mentioned, it's page 37 on that document.
Okay, 3.1A.
Yeah,
Pro Tem.
it's located in a number of different places, but if you can identify strategy 3.1A, the only change, the amendment would only change that language from what's currently presented in 3.1A to the amendment on the table is complete implementation of Main Street Project Phase 2 improvements along 56th Avenue West to maintain the city's commitment to redevelopment in the area through improvements to the public realm and evaluate other future town center investments identified in the town center sub-area plan for their alignment with the economic development goals and the city's role in them. And what it does is amends the language that says, currently reads as presented, and other town center investments identified in the town center sub-area plan to maintain the city's commitment to redevelopment in the area. And what has been presented to us about the concern is that as they read the current language as presented, based on what our other documents state, and what Laura, Councilmember Sonner previously mentioned as far as 57th and the town center plans, what were, phases 2 and 3 of that Main Street that we've been requesting funding for, they're concerned that as it currently reads, as presented, that would include 57th, and based on that language, adopting it as is. And there are other areas that we need to look at, for instance, the comprehensive plan, the transportation improvement plan. So when we talk about the traffic flows, for instance, that gets into discussion in the other areas, not necessarily the economic development element itself, but other areas where we need to have a fuller conversation about 57th Street improvements. So by presenting this amended language, it helps address their concerns that we are not just moving forward, straight forward with improvements as presented, but instead gives us time to consider other alternatives to other improvements that we may want to make in town center, including but not limited to 57th Street. But it ensures the language here, as I read it, it ensures that we will evaluate other future town center improvements and investments. Does that make sense? I hope.
I think you went through it very well, and I appreciate your effort. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilmember Salmore.
So Brian, or Councilman Wall, what my concern is, and I wrote it down for you here too, is we talked about traffic flow and bringing that up and looking at getting council on board about past history and what we've looked at, so we're not reinventing the wheel all the time. We know, well, maybe that will work, and it's good that they brought that up. But it says 56, and I just would like to, I'm reading your words, thank you for putting that up there, that helps a lot, it really doesn't address 57th to me at all. I would like to put something in there about traffic flow or something, so it actually identifies different areas that we need to look at. And so we put it in here so we are looking at the different streets in there. And so maybe you can come up with something.
Yeah, if I can, if it's all right, propose a friendly amendment perhaps, to read town center. So if you look at the amended language presented, investments identified in the town center sub-area plan for their, let's see, such, and then put comma, such as traffic flow, comma, for their, another, so we're evaluating other future town center investments identified in town center sub-area plan, such as traffic flow, for their alignment with other economic development goals in the city's role in them.
And that to me helps me a lot, because it's not pointing out 57th, it's looking at it holistically. And so that would mean that we look at everything again. So that would be a good friendly amendment to me, but other people might have other comments.
So since it actually hasn't been seconded, as I understand it, I can propose a change without actually having to amend the amendment, so that it would read, town center sub-area plan, comma, such as traffic flow, comma, for their alignment. See where that goes?
Yeah, right. Oops.
Third line, there you go, that's it. Such as traffic flow.
I don't know if that's good. Maybe somebody can come up with some better wording than traffic flow. I'm seeing some brains clicking down there that they may have some other better words than that.
That would just be an example, so. Does anyone have anything else? Councilmember Ryan?
In that, is that already stated, or is it specific to 57th Avenue West?
As we should probably get a second on the proposed amendment at some point if we want to have further discussion. But to clarify, that, as Councilmember Sonner points out, is intended to evaluate the entire town center sub-area plan as for traffic, and it's also just an example of traffic flow. It might also address other issues and considerations. It is just merely to point out the concern that's been raised to help us ensure that we are, as a council, addressing that specific concern and other concerns that we may want to consider when making additional investments in the town center.
Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'll, for process sake, I'll second this amendment in front of us, and also comment that I think it's important that we, put our money or our text where our mouth is in this instance, but also to sort of honor, the process that we're doing here, and to respond to the feedback we're getting, but also in the same breath, I'll just note that this is a plan that's part of our comp plan, and we will continue to be doing transportation planning, et cetera, and this process will continue as it has for the last couple decades. So I like the direction we're going, and want to make sure that we meet sort of the need here, but there will be time for lots more planning as we go. So I think for my part, I think the discussion that we've heard, or the language that we've heard, meets the mark. So thank you.
Point of order.
Councilmember Ryan.
Before we second it, I think we're still having discussion, so if we could continue the discussion, please.
All right. Well,
Someone else before me? It's up to you, Mayor.
Rick, do you have something to, that you want us, on just the traffic flow or on the whole thing altogether?
Point of order. So we have an amendment on the table which has been seconded, but you're correct. We now need to have discussion on the amendment. Right. And then once we have, correct. So once we have adopted or not the amendment that's on the table, then we go into further discussion on the motion as amended or not amended on the Economic Development Strategic Plan.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yep.
Yes, I think am I available, Mayor? Am I up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
are.
Thank you. I'm still, I understand what Council Member Wall's saying with the, we're just going to readdress Town Center, it would also include 57th. I know 57th isn't going to go through right away because we don't have any money for the design. That's going to take a lot of money. And then we're hoping for the federal grant. We've been hoping for a federal grant since I was on council in 2008. We don't get it. It'd be nice to get it, but we didn't get it again. So anyway, so if that's going to include, the amendment's going to include talking about not just talk about Town Center and 57th, I'd be in agreement with that. But I'd also want to put a time on it when we're going to discuss it. Because a lot of times we agree that we're going to discuss it, and then a year passes, and then everybody forgets about it. So I've had a lot of those. I don't want to bring up any of those right now. But if we're going to do the amendment or table it and get our business partners in on this, I would go for the amendment. But I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. So in regards to the amendment, I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem putting it on the table. I think it's a good amendment. I will say the intent to me still reads the same. I think the town center sub-area plan is where there are concerns being brought forward. And, I think in the manner that it sits currently, I think that still leaves us room to revise the sub-area plan should we choose. And I think this makes it more clear that that is something that we want to do and will do. And so I'm happy to support this. I will say the term traffic flow doesn't exist in the sub-area plan, so I worry a little bit about adding things that don't exist currently. I think if we want it to be traffic, I don't know if that's the same intent for Councilmember Sonmore, but traffic is addressed lots of times. I pulled up the town center sub-area plan. Traffic is addressed lots of times throughout the plan, but traffic flow is not a term that's currently used. So I guess I would love to not add terms that may create ambiguity versus, I guess, if the intent is to provide traffic as an example, or the flow of traffic as an example of something that exists within the current plan that we're going to take a look at, I would love for that to reflect language that currently exists. I can make an amendment to the amendment, or if the proposer would like to adjust that, if that is.
Friendly amendment, you okay with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I think we can consider that a friendly amendment.
How about traffic study? So who is up right now? You're
Okay. So, Madam Mayor?
Oh, are you voting on it?
No.
Oh,
okay, Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Murray. I would consider that a friendly amendment to change it to read such as traffic, comma. And the second was Rory. Do you agree with that as a friendly amendment? Yes. Then we're good.
Councilmember Sonmore.
I just wanted to answer Rick's questions too, and I didn't want you to think that I am not for this plan. I'm just saying it's more riper than it's been because of the environment of our city. So we've got to be very careful, and from here on out, the council can get involved in, you talked about last time, community identity and a lot of other different things, and that's where I'm excited about, because that's where I want our business owners, hey, if you're going to be this involved in this piece of the project, then help us be involved in getting our identity and different things. Because I know in the plaza, they're thinking about doing some other things, and I'd like to hear about that. And Aaron mentioned a video at our last meeting, and I wasn't sure what that was about, but that's offline. I'd like to see that. But Rick, you said a lot of times, we have this and we put it on a shelf and then we don't have a timeline. But I think with this plan, it gives us a structure, right? It gives us a structured piece to think about and look at. And then we built timelines according, this one is like 2 years and 3 years and 5 years, but I think it scratches the itch of some of the council members who have wanted economic development for a long time. And so now we have a framework and we can kind of use this and put timelines together for different things, but then, hear back from the community and get them involved. And I think, Rick, that's what kind of you were talking about. I just wanted to make sure we were answering some of the things that you were talking about, to make sure you were on board with what we had just amended there and what we were getting at.
Technically, we haven't amended anything yet.
Okay. Councilmember Ryan.
I just wanted to make sure that we are in this discussion addressing 57th, because that's our major business owners' concern right now. And I mentioned that I know it might not take place for a long time because we don't have the money for the development. Plus, if you look at the map, it'd take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, what, 1, 2, 4, at least 7 houses, maybe more. It'd take out the parking for the senior center. It'd take out the Diamond Knot Brewery edge. So it's not business friendly. So I think that's my concern with the business partners. So, and I did speak to them that if they want to change that in the town center, they actually could put together a group and come and change it, because it's not really just a comp plan. It could be changed. And I talked to the city manager about this. So that could be there. So that's number one, my concern. The thing is that also, like I said, I'd like to see, okay, let's talk about it next month. I'd like some time in there, because we've had a lot of things we're going to talk about, and then we don't talk about them for 4 years. So I'd like to have a little more get to it right away things, because we need to discuss this, because this is at least the second time the business community has come to talk to us. And I know we want to grow the city, and we have the state's mandate to increase population. But if we don't do something more than this and 57th, we're just going to have apartments up and down 56th. And I'd just soon go back to when we had Arctic Circle and Kentucky Fried Chicken and 9 gas stations. So we need to talk a little more in detail instead of just this plan. I mean, it's a great plan, but I think we really need more specifics.
Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
So timeline for me would be great.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So first of all, on the Economic Development Strategic Plan itself, this is a 2 to 5 year plan. So that is one element. I think the important thing to note, however, is that the language that we're addressing here, the key word here is evaluate other future town center investments. And that relates to a couple of other things. And the issues the concerns that have been raised are primarily in the comprehensive plan and the town center sub-area plan and the traffic plan, transportation plan. And so those are the areas that we really need to be spending some more time in the next couple of months where we're going to be addressing some of these other issues that we'll want to take a closer look at. Furthermore, I would suggest, as far as timeline, when we look at other future investments in town center, we have a discussion prior to submitting the next grant for phases 2 and 3 to have a clear understanding with the council and the public what phase 3 is about and what it means and what the implications may or may not be, so that we are all clear on what phase 3 is intended to be, what we're intending to get funding for, and what we're not getting funding for, and if any changes were to happen on 57th, it would require to clarify what I believe the council's intent is, and what in the past has been, we have a plan, but it requires the owners of the property to be interested in developing or redeveloping that property. The city's not going to do it. We don't have the funding to do it. We are not interested in doing it without the property owners wanting to redevelop their property. But that is the concern that has been raised, is that because there is language in our town center sub-area plan, and the language that is being presented in this plan, in 3.1A, the language that is presented in the comprehensive plan, town center sub-area plan, we have the legal ability to condemn property if we wanted to, and that's where the concern is rising, that we are trying to address we'll need to address in a number of different areas and working with the business owners. But the first step in addressing that they've raised is in 3.1A, and that's what this amendment to the plan is trying to address, and showing those business owners that we are listening, we do hear their concerns, we share their concerns, and we would like to continue that dialogue and work together to find solutions, starting with adopting this amended language.
Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wholeheartedly agree with the Councilmember Wall's remarks, and would point out that I think this sets us up well for other conversations, because it's not just 57th in our current town center plan in terms of cross-block connectors, thoroughfares or walking streets that don't currently exist. We have a 231st concept and other sort of conceptual future streets that absolutely would require partnership and planning with future developers, future development should it come to pass. So I would love to keep this moving and agree wholeheartedly with Councilmember Wall.
Councilmember Woodard.
Only I've been waiting to speak in the sense of nobody cares. You know, I appreciate this. This is such a fascinating conversation. So let me first start by saying thank you for taking time out of your day to come and speak with us, as well as Aaron online. I'm sure you represent more folks than just the two of you, so just even taking the time to gather that information. As luck would have it, or timing have it, I actually had lunch in your plaza today at your new Thai restaurant that's there. I only say that to say I ended up sending a photo to the city manager because as we were sitting out on their lovely outdoor seating, permanent outdoor seating, which looks wonderful, I'm sitting there with a colleague who I invited into Mountlake Terrace, and we're sitting there and a car drove right by us. Now you might think to yourself, why are you telling us this? Because if you remember how the Thai restaurant's on the corner there, I could have high-fived the driver, which means they cut through the plaza itself, which is just my way of saying people already think 57th goes through. Because I did ask, what is going on there? And they said it happens all the time. So just kind of putting that out there. Police chief is here, our commanders are here, just to say, hey, I'm sure you're aware of that. People are driving through that all the time. We have people drive off of the ramp here. So for whatever reason, they think 230, what would that be, 233 and a half or something? I mean, it's making up streets, which is just to say the traffic flow is important here. However, and here's where the irony comes in, a black man talking about history. I have a hard time because when I came in what was that, 2019, so about 6 years back, we had just got ready to adopt a re-envisioning of the town center. Now you can grow this place pretty high up there. I only bring that up to point out that 57th Street was on that plan, and I didn't hear anything about it. And I only bring that up because I remember thinking, how's that going to work? We're going to displace this, that, and the other thing, but no discussion about that. I only bring that up to say that I've had a hard time how this was presented to me from our public comment, that we are passing or moving forward with things that the council doesn't agree to. And I think to myself, we've been communicating this, as I just heard through this conversation, since 2008, we've been talking about 57th Street existing. So this is not coming out of nowhere. But in this discussion, we've just destroyed all of that, whatever that work was, to get to this point, apparently to avoid a hard conversation. Because as much as I appreciate you giving us the public comment, as much as I agree with the amendments, I'm curious how they're happening now. And we could have did this 6 years back. You could have did this back in 2008. And I just don't want to I want to make sure we don't just throw that history out, because this configuration of the council is uncomfortable with hard conversations, perhaps. Oh, I'm making personal now. I'm not trying to be. Just trying to make sure that when I came onto this council, you told me I have to honor what's already happened as we're shaping what's happening. I do not feel that's happening right now. And I just want to make sure that somebody said that. And the irony that it's me does not escape me, because I actually agree with this. I think a lot of the stuff in this city was never designed for folks like myself. But I ain't going to throw it all out because I'm afraid to have a hard conversation. And if you're telling me since 2008 that 57th Street is a must, I got to have a longer conversation about why am I saying now it isn't? Because 2 meetings in a row, someone told me it isn't. And I'll just pause there to say, perhaps I've been sitting on a faulty premise. Because in this discussion, I just heard the closest we've ever come to talking about eminent domain. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, I was told nothing happens with that re-envisioning of the town center until someone purchases this place, and now they have to do this. So unless Westlake is looking to sell, which begs the question, how is this your problem? Again, I got to go back to why since 2008 have you told me I need this street, and now 2 meetings in a row you tell me, no, let's go back and change it. I just want to make sure you're honoring all that work that some of you on this council did. And again, if the answer is it's this configuration, let me just tell you, you're opening up a great gate for a guy like me, because I've apparently been honoring this history too long. So I said what I have to say. I love the amendments. I love the friendly amendments. I love what feels like the freedom you are all just giving me to reevaluate every decision that I have on some levels just going, I just did one tonight. I am a big fan of DVS. And if somebody tells me how they got money and someone didn't, I didn't like my answer last year, but I let it go, or last time. I'm letting it go. Mission creep on that part. Let me pull back to this 57th and leave it at, I agree with the amendments. I don't agree with how we're going about this, but here we find ourselves. Thank you again for speaking up, but this did not come out of nowhere. Again, I personally can tell you for the last 6 years, I've been thinking about that for no other reason than I didn't understand it when I agreed to it because it was part of this bigger picture. But again, I was on the premise of this only happens if you sell, not the city can come in. Because I got pavilions that I'm going to build before I mess with your 57th, brother. Just so you know, I'm not thinking about 57th Street, thinking about that pavilion, right? So if we can raise money in new ways, which is what I hear us talking about, that's interesting to me. So enough said. Friendly amendment rocks. Let's get it done.
Councilmember Salmore?
So good points. And this is, so we haven't even talked about the comp plan yet because it came up because people came to me about 57th. And right now it's not off the plate. The friendly amendment is for this economic development strategy plan to look at that. And that's why if we take out 57th, we have to figure out why it was put there in the first place and the traffic flow and dig out those old notes because you're absolutely right. I mean, we spent hours. I mean, I worked a 40-hour week job. I would get here at 6 and sometimes I would leave at 12 at night to put these plans together. I mean, I think I was putting in like 30 hours a week at the city. And we did a ton of work. And you're right. And Rick's right. It goes up on a shelf and we kind of forget about it. And the new council comes in and they talk about it. And we don't have those hard conversations. We need that. We used to get the background history of stuff. Instead, now and I'm not blaming anybody, it's just a whole different world to me on communication and how we're given information. And it's nobody's fault because they weren't here then, but I was trained differently. And so we would get the pros and the cons and we'd see exactly why we needed this and why we needed that. And it was so much detail thrown at me. I can't believe I would have like a stack of papers to read each week on economic development, on building and all sorts of different things. And sometimes it comes at you fast and furious as a council member and it can be a lot to digest. But for me, I learn better when somebody's, I can have that dialogue, and that's why I jump in quite a bit, is because that's how I learn and that's how I digest information and that's how I feel involved in something. Something that's flat is hard for me to understand sometimes, like, I don't know, road planning or something. But I think sometimes we have to look at how our council learns and how we're getting our points across, because, Steve, I'm kind of hearing you saying that maybe we didn't hear you and maybe you want to voice more to understand. And I'm trying to open that dialogue to make sure that you're not feeling that. And how do we make that better for other people on the council? Because even though I was there in 2008, sometimes I remember large chunks of information, and sometimes I may have forgotten other chunks of information. And so that's why I went back and I wrote about background history, reviewing some of that and understanding why 57th was there. And then we can tell people who are in the plaza, this is why 57th was there. And we're talking about it now because you're right, somebody brought it up. And it is difficult conversation to have. It's like, how much time do we spend on our council reports compared to a road project? We spend 10 minutes on the road project and 2 hours on our council reports. We have to be really careful about how we spend our time and how we're getting the information. So I just want to let you know that you've been heard, and going forward, we've got to kind of figure out what information we may need and how we get that information.
Do I see any other hands going up? Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. The reason I think, and this might help some council members, that we're talking about 57th is because we've had several business owners questioning it. And I was elected to vote and represent the people of the city, including the business owners. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Where it came from, it was finalized in 2019 on the town center plan. All council members except me voted for it. So go back, listen to your notes, and see why. We also had a walkthrough, outside walk by. And I had some people that were part of a committee tell me about 57th. And I said, why? And the reason is connectivity. So the word is connectivity. I don't really think it's valid now, but that's probably why I didn't vote for it. Didn't want it then, and I didn't vote for it. So if you're not quite sure on 57th, go back and look at your notes, go back in history and study it. And then go ahead and, why don't you go down and talk to the business owners like I do. When I go down and buy hamburger at D&D, I can't help but be talked to about it. I'm busy in the community. When I became a member of Mountlake Terrace in 1985, I changed all my prescriptions and that to go to Bartell's, so I'm in Mountlake Terrace. So I support the city, so therefore I should listen to and support the business owners. So what are we going to do? I support the business owners. So let's support the business owners. Have a discussion later if you want. Get a timeline on it so it doesn't sit there since 2019. And get on with it. Thank you.
Councilmember Woodard.
Since we're going back in history, thank you, Mayor. I want to say that was wonderful to hear that an idea I had of doing a walkthrough left an impression on people who we don't necessarily always see eye to eye. On this matter, we do see eye to eye. Just want to be as clear as possible. My comment was, I have been listening to people and telling them, ooh, it's really hard to get your issue heard because I have to honor what this council's done. So all I'm letting you know is I too have been listening to people from day one. And day one was 20 years ago, not 6 when I joined the council. But I have clearly been under a veil of misunderstanding. So the folks that I have been listening to, you will hear more from. And we will revisit just about every decision that on some levels I've had not necessarily an issue with, but I have let go because I felt like it would just be me. But perhaps it won't be. So that said, I agree. Please do support Mountlake Terrace. Please do walk our streets and see what's actually going on. So when I tell you that I could have high-fived a driver, what I didn't tell you is a group of about 15 stood in that very spot minutes later. What I didn't tell you is 40 minutes earlier, I walked by that very spot and would have been blindsided by that person, right? And this has been going on for a while. And it took me one lunch. So I absolutely agree. Walk around, get involved in this city. Support it with your dollars. But I'm also letting folks know, please do keep talking to Dr. Woodard because he now understands perhaps he's got more power than he ever realized. And it was just this conversation that helped. Because again, I have been concerned about that 57th Street since I learned about it in the town center adoption. But didn't think that I could do anything about it because I was told, oh, it won't happen until someone buys the property. So I'm now not confused. I'm educated a little bit more, and we'll start seeing what happens from that in 2025.
Councilmember Salmore.
Summarize this, and I don't want you guys competing over who does what. I want us to be on the same ground. I didn't know if I heard any animosity, so I just wanted to make sure everybody was okay. But what I did hear is the council would like background on 57th. They'd like to have a complete understanding of the background of it, when you can make changes to certain things and when you can't, like the comp plan and different things like that. But, so we're all on the same page. Is that because I heard somebody say 2019 and a different thing? But I think that if you have questions like that, we can get things answered on different things like that. So Christy I was kind of surprised when she said that last week, but she lives and breathes this, so maybe we can pick her brain more on the topic of it, so there's a complete understanding by everybody before we go on to the comp plan, what's going on and why 56 or 57th was brought into the conversation instead of us having to guess different information. That's it.
Did you have more to say? Oh,
We need to vote first.
Okay.
I agree. Call for the question.
with the friendly amendment?
No. We are voting on the amendment itself. Yeah, we are voting on the amendment first, and then we are discussion and/or adoption of the plan as amended if we amend it.
Okay, so now we're voting. So call for the question. So we're going to vote on the amendment.
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
Could we restate the amendment, please?
Would you like to read that?
You want me to read it, or do you want Jennifer to pull it up?
Mayor, if I might, Jennifer, could you put that back up on the screen, please? So it'll be easy to see.
Thank you. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem. Okay, so let's go to Councilmember Ryan first. You have a question?
Will the amendment include a timeline, or you want to not include a timeline for discussion further?
Okay.
The Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Technically, we've called for the question. We should immediately vote. That said, let me try and answer that question again as far as timeline. Timeline for the economic development strategic plan is a 5-year plan. So it's already built into the plan. As Councilmember Sonmore pointed out, this is a framework for the entire plan. When it comes to other elements of this discussion that's being raised as far as 57th, it's more appropriate not to have a timeline in the economic development strategy, but to have that discussion related to the comprehensive plan, which is the next couple of months, and elements within the comprehensive plan, including the town center sub-area plan and the transportation element. And so we're going to be working with the business owners and the chamber to make sure that we are hearing their concerns before we adopt the comprehensive plan. And then we need to have a further discussion as far as further investments in town center, including the grant application before February for phases 3. So that's the timeline that is out there, but it's not necessarily appropriate to have a timeline built into this amendment itself. It's more appropriate to have that discussion as is necessary in the next couple of months in the adoption of the comprehensive plan itself.
That makes sense. And I know that this doesn't necessarily, 57th, have to be in the comprehensive plan. So I'll be bringing it up later to the council. Thank you.
Now can we vote?
Questions on the table?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So this part of the amendment does pass. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, so now we are, now with that amendment adopted, we are now ready to have, adopt the plan as amended. And I would like to make a couple of brief comments. I would have gone on further, but we've had a very healthy discussion, I think enlightening and informative and educational and very helpful. I hope we have strived to show that we are listening to the concerns that are being raised and brought forward. We are very interested in addressing those. At the same time, I am very excited about us adopting and moving forward with an economic development strategy. As you know, I've been calling for this for years. We've done a lot of work over the years, and a lot of it has ended up in a shelf or behind the scenes, adopted, and we move on. And part of the challenge has been that we've missed a lot of those economic windows. Every time we're having a lot of discussion, which is great, and then we adopt something, but then a recession, then the tech bubble, then the COVID. So that's been part of the challenges that we've had. Now, as Councilmember Sonber points out, now is the time to get this in place and have our strategy ready and adopted as light rail has opened, and we're starting to see huge interest and investments in this city. It's a huge opportunity for the city to be able to move forward, and I'm excited that we've finally been able to get this, the economic development, the economic profile, population demographic drivers, real estate market trends, employment and workforce trends. Again, that's something that we've had as a council adopted in our council plans, our goals, our vision, our comprehensive plan for a number of years now, and we're finally getting it. And importantly, I think we've done a great job. Some of us may have been more involved in this process this time around than others. I do feel ownership in this. I feel I had been very involved, and I appreciated the opportunity, and I felt that I was listened to and had a lot of things I was interested in and concerned about adopted and incorporated into the plan through the development. We've had plenty of opportunities through council discussion at work sessions, and in looking at it. I'm extremely excited about the direction and the strategic plans and goals and the framework that's being laid out, the strategies and objectives and actions one is enhance Mountlake Terrace's image as a destination for business, placemaking, and it is, I understand the need for us, if we are to be successful as a community, we need to be a place that people want to be, a place that people want to shop, they want to live, they want to experience and feel included and participate and have activities and events. And the way we do that is laid out very well, I believe, in the strategic plan and the goals and framework. I think we've also done a great job of recognizing that not only do we want to attract investment and bring new investment into the community, but also retain and encourage and expand and support our current business community. And I think that's laid out in the strategic plan. I think we've also done a great job of looking at how we need to go about investing in ourselves and laid out a plan for what the city needs to do to be able to attract economic development, the investments we need to make in our community to be able to create the opportunities for more jobs and more investment and more opportunities and that plan, that economic development plan, is going to bring in the revenues that we need to be able to achieve all the other dreams that we have for our community. And so that's what I'm excited about, is we have now got a plan that we're ready to implement and adopt and incorporate it into our comprehensive plan later in the next couple of months, to be able to help us, and then through our budget process, to be able to ensure that we are incorporating these goals and plans and ideas and a strategy and a clear framework for how we need to move forward. So I am excited to be able to have the opportunity to have this in front of us and be able to adopt this plan and be able to move forward in addressing the opportunities that we have in front of us on economic development. Thank you.
Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for bringing us back to, I think, where I started the conversation and, having had a chance to finally read through the full proposal and all of our packet materials. It is incredibly exciting. This work is meaningful. It is not work that I plan on letting get sat on a shelf somewhere. I'm excited about it. There were so many parts of that report, and big thank you to Leland Consulting for all of their work, to Christy and all of the staff involved in the process and all of their work. The Chamber of Commerce, we had a great engagement session with them during the process where we got lots of really good feedback that was incorporated really well into the process and into the final product. There were so many pieces that I was like, oh, I can't wait to share this with people. Like that, it is. I think for a long time I've said how we talk about ourselves matters. And I don't think that we have up until this point had really good materials to talk about ourselves and to talk about all of the things that we as a community have to offer when it comes to opportunity for economic development. And at least for me, I don't think there's a way that you can read through the materials that were put together as part of the strategic plan and not be really excited about the future of Mountlake Terrace. So while, I know we had a conversation that for me, and candidly, the reason I supported the amendment was because I think it's a conversation best suited as part of our comprehensive plan process and other pieces of it, including the land use section of those conversations and the town center sub-area plan. Like, I am super excited about, our future, and I am excited about Mountlake Terrace, and I just appreciate and thank everyone involved in the process, because I think the outcome here is phenomenal, and I'm really excited to move forward. I'm glad we found a solution that, feels like it gives us an opportunity to continue to have conversation, to see what options are available to alleviate, hopefully, concerns. But I'm excited about the product, and I'm really excited to get it approved so that we can start using it and actively using it in our work.
Councilmember Woodard.
I too want to say thank you to our consultants. You did a wonderful job. I feel absolute ownership over this process as well. I'm lost in the timeline of which one connects to which one anymore, but nonetheless, very proud of the work that we've done. I also just want to reiterate again, thank you to the folks who Aaron stepped off, it looks like, but thank you for stepping in again and giving us your feedback. I'm sorry I didn't meet you 6 years ago. I would have helped you solve this problem 6 years ago. We wouldn't be sitting here now in the 12th hour going, oh, we almost have passed this. So I'm going to be better because I've learned more. So thank you for your time and energy.
So now we have that motion on the floor. Do I just call for the question on this one, or is there everybody?
Yes. To clarify.
Okay, go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To clarify, I guess I will call for the question if there's no further discussion. The motion on the floor is to adopt the Economic Development Strategic Plan as amended.
Second.
It's already on the table.
Oh, it's already up there.
And so now we can just vote. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It has passed. Okay. All right, so then I don't need to look at this cheat sheet anymore. And this, you guys, our city manager and our consultant has been sitting there for the longest time listening to all of this. Do you have anything to say before we move on?
No, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. I'm just as excited as several of the comments that were expressed from the dais. Thank you.
No comments from me other than thank you. I appreciated working with you all throughout the process, and I'm very excited that it was adopted tonight. So thank you, and good evening.
Thank you. All right, then we're going to go on to our next. Our police department has been so patiently waiting all evening long. So the presentation on the first and second quarter police reports.
Good evening, Mayor and Pro Tem and Council. For the people in the audience, my name is Pete Comm, the police chief for the city of Mountlake Terrace, and sitting to my left is Commander Scott King, Command Services Commander, and Commander Haynes will not be with us. He's currently camping in Wenatchee, so I wish him well for his weekend. He'll be with us next time. The 2024 first and second quarter police report will restate the 2024 goals. We'll give an update on how the goals are being reached. There will also be a staffing update. There'll be a short entertaining video, which is a panoramic shot taken for our newest and best drone program, which we're very proud of. The report and presentation also includes first and second quarter statistical data such as calls for service, traffic stops, arrests, DUIs, along with comparisons to 2023 statistical data. There is a decrease in vehicle prowls and vehicle theft in the second quarter, due to no small part in some changes in the law regarding police pursuits of those types of crimes. These are both categories where we have seen higher than normal numbers in the past year. The report also outlines training highlights, community outreach, our new embedded social worker program, which, by the way, is working very well. The report dives into commonly used investigative resources used by detectives, giving insights on how they find leads and information. We're combining these two quarter police reports. We will still continue to see you 4 times a year. But if I didn't combine these two, I'd be in the third quarter before I got to the second quarter, and that I don't like to be late. So we're going to combine them for this one time. It's almost like being here, isn't it? It's almost like a ride in Disneyland. So really love the drone shots. They're crystal clear, high tech, and pretty entertaining. First of all, let's go over the goals philosophy again. As I've told you many times, I'm still a big fan of President Obama's 2015 task force on 21st century policing. In my estimation, he was a brilliant president, and also he had some great ideas, this being one of them. We established our goals on building trust and integrity and legitimacy, policy and oversight, technology and social media, community policing and crime reduction, training and education, and officer wellness and safety. Getting to some of our goals. We provide a safe community for everyone. We utilize department resources effectively. We continue to use our unmanned aerial vehicle program, commonly referred to as a drone, in an effort to leverage technology for the purpose of increasing safety of officers in the community. I've given you many examples of using time-distance shielding to make everyone safer. This program utilizes unmanned vehicles to help provide time, distance, and shielding, 3 tactics referred to in recent legislative updates, policy, and procedures. We focus on traffic enforcement, DUI enforcement. We are a member of the Violent Offenders Task Force, leverage our partnerships. It's a force multiplier. Many examples of working with those folks to apprehend the worst and most violent criminals in our community. We focus on community-oriented policing and outreach. Continue to utilize the embedded social worker program. More on that later. We continue to provide and promote outreach programs such as cops and clergy. That's been a great success. I really enjoy those meetings myself. We utilize the e-bike program to make community contacts. You'll see those folks in the park. You saw them during several of our festivals, working very well. We work collaboratively with regional law enforcement agencies. We participate in regional intelligence groups. Again, we partner with the United States Marshal Service as a member of the Violent Offender Task Force. We incorporated education and long-term solution strategies with enforcement. If you notice from our traffic stops, very few traffic stops result in infractions. Most of them result in a long conversation and some enforcement. but there are those folks that just don't seem to learn from being talked to, and really issuing us infraction is the best way to change behavior. We work with city departments to maintain a clean and inviting environment. We recruit and retain quality personnel, replacing retiring department members. While doing that, we maintain high standards for personal selection, provide opportunity for new challenges for personnel. We focus on succession planning and develop the next generation of department leaders. We maintain auditing systems to ensure compliance and community expectations are being met. Some examples are Spider Tech, command review of all critical incidents, all up to and including a review by the chief of police, accreditation auditing and compliance, Luxopol, which is an online training manual that every day the officer signs on, gets a lesson plan, a couple of questions attached to it. It's just 5 minutes training, but it keeps them current in the policy and procedures. We operate a comprehensive and robust in-service training program. Most of our trainers are from in-house, so we don't have to send people off to school. We send the trainers off to school to come back and train our folks in a variety of skill sets. We focus on finding candidates of differing backgrounds and diverse communities. Been very proud of the success we've had in this year. If you go over and look at the police department, it looks a lot different than it did 10 years ago, and that's a good thing. We want to be regional leaders and set example for modern policing as it relates to community expectations. We listen to feedback, implement changes appropriate. We update and modify policy and procedures promptly. We develop and promptly instruct internal training programs consistent with legislative mandates. We focus on fostering a culture of partnership with the community. We're as transparent as possible. Recognize community support and trust is paramount to our success. We're proactive in incorporating improvements and efficiencies in lieu of a wait-and-see approach, and we practice fiscal responsibility. I'll turn it over to Commander King for some other updates.
So, staffing update. Officer Abdallah Al-Ansar finished field training and is assigned to Graveyard Patrol. Officer Al-Ansar is fluent in Arabic, which is great. I personally have used him with his abilities for that, and it's just nice having that. Jeff Zarnick graduated from the academy, 3rd overall in his class, and he is currently in field training. In January, Angelica Rivera promoted to a collateral assignment as Animal Control Officer. Angelica attended and graduated from the Animal Control Academy. So for these next series of slides, you'll see the first quarter stats on top and the second quarter stats on the bottom. Calls for service were down slightly. Community-oriented policing contacts were up first and second quarter, and there was a slight decrease in written reports. Traffic stops were down first quarter, but higher the second quarter. Infractions were down first and second quarter, and citations were up first and second quarter. Arrests were higher first quarter and second quarter compared to 2023. Domestic violence crimes have risen in 2024. We're not exactly sure why. One thing we are seeing is a higher number of adult children moving home with their parents. It's some situations creating some conflict, and this accounts for some of the change. Vehicle thefts were up first quarter 2024, but down the second quarter. This is likely due to changes in the pursuit laws. DUI arrests, first quarter were consistent with 2023 and were up the second quarter. Vehicle prowls were down significantly by the second quarter 2024. Again, this is likely in part to change to the vehicle pursuit laws. Burglaries also showed a similar trend with numbers down the second quarter. Violent crime numbers remain relatively low. There's a slight increase in the second quarter. A majority of those crimes were felony assaults. There were no homicides and no kidnappings. And this is a representation of our demographics for the city. Infractions were higher the second quarter. This reflects the earlier slide, which shows where more traffic stops were done in the second quarter. Second quarter arrests are up compared to the first quarters. Some of the increase is likely due to our detectives making arrests on investigations which happened earlier in the year. One example of this would be the home invasion robbery that we had. Cops and clergy. So first quarter, Cops and Clergy, we had Pet Partners of Western Washington and Keepin' Safe, who discussed mental health. Both organizations provide emotional and spiritual support for their communities. Second quarter, we had Wally Webster, and he presented on his nonprofit, The Access Project. The Access Project focuses on mental health resources to create a supportive network for youth in Snohomish County. And the second presenter, second quarter, was Chris McBride from the Domestic Violence Services of Snohomish County. For training, officers are recertifying in de-escalation and patrol tactics. Topics in this include trauma medical treatment, emotional intelligence, and crisis communication, as well as high-risk contacts. Some of the other training that we've completed, Narcan and fentanyl training, firearms and less lethal qualification, DEI training, topics 1 and 2, firearms training, defensive tactics training, and all officers received familiarization training on the Link light rail system. Our property technician, evidence technician, Custer, processed 607 pieces of evidence in the first 2 quarters and destroyed 1,054 items. This included 136 firearms that were destroyed, and these are all firearms that cases had gone through and there was no need to have them around anymore. Animal control and records. The records unit continues to receive training from a variety of sources to include Washington State Law Enforcement Information and Records Association and Washington Association of Public Records Officers. Records processed 1,272 cases, 129 collisions, and 362 public disclosure requests in the first 2 quarters. Animal control processed 22 cases and 1 potentially dangerous dog. And that's her with the pig in the top picture there. For community outreach, members of the North Sound Metro SWAT team made a wish come true for a young boy fighting cancer who wanted to be a SWAT officer for a day. The young boy was presented with team patches and a team flag with his name on it. We continue to make Narcan available to community members. Narcan was used by officers, saving 5 lives over the first 2 quarters. In June, our former social worker, Heather Turner, ended her tour with us. We quickly welcomed new social worker, Holly Shelton. We got Holly through the Snohomish County Department of Human Services, also known as SCOUT. Most recently, Holly was a vital team member as we collaborated with Volunteers of America and the Department of Transportation to mitigate a very large homeless encampment between I-5 and the Nile Golf Course. Holly found temporary housing and resources for the occupants of the camp. Detectives. For the next series of slides, I will be showing you the most commonly used investigative resources for detectives. Also in the photograph there, it does not show our new detective, Detective Elrod. So we now have a detective sergeant and 3 detectives. On the left would be a representation of New World. New World allows investigators to search for people, property, vehicles, and records within Snohomish County. Links is similar to New World, but we use that for finding records outside of Snohomish County and throughout the state and throughout the United States. Department of Licensing provides investigators resources allowing them to search a partial license plate or identify information about a vehicle. This is often used when detectives can see what type of vehicle the suspect was driving, but are unable to read the license plate. Leads Online is a pawn and online sales database. When investigators are searching for stolen property, this database may show what has been pawned. It will also show what has been sold on common private sales websites such as eBay or OfferUp. Leads Toolbox is a resource used by investigators to learn information about a phone number. This includes the service provider, phone type, and name associated with the number. This resource will also inform you if other investigators have run into or have run the same phone number, showing a potential overlap in investigations. LexisNexis is a resource used by investigators to expand our knowledge of a suspect or locate identifying victims or involved parties by using their name, phone number, address, or identifiers. Investigators often reach out to media outlets who are willing to ask the public for information on active cases. These are always run through the Public Information Officer for approval, sometimes leading to breaks in the cases. I'm open for questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Murray?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you both. Always nice to see you and appreciate all of the work that you and your teams do as always. A couple of specific thank yous. I love the continued use of technology. I feel like every time you come in, you've got something new that you are doing, or something new at least that you're sharing with us in terms of ways you're helping the team to be more effective in the work that they do. And so appreciate that that you as a team continue to look for opportunities to utilize technology to better serve our community and residents. Congrats to the new officers, and I know recruiting is something we talked a lot about here when I joined the council 5 years ago, and just appreciate all of the continued work and efforts. I know that is not a one and done sort of thing, that is ongoing work, and so just appreciate that has continued to, I think, pay dividends in terms of having a police force that does, is more representative of the community that it serves. So thank you for all of the work there. Also, the increase in community-oriented policing, I think, in talking about credit of, maybe some of the other calls and incidents going down, I mean, I would infer at least that is also work that pays dividends in terms of, avoiding the need, to call police out in an emergency because you are doing more of that community-oriented policing. So I appreciate all of the work there as well, and appreciate that, both to you and to the rest of city staff for finding a solution when we needed one for the embedded social worker program. I'm glad to hear that is going well in its newest and greatest iteration. So thank you for all of that work too. I am curious, I was going to say this probably will not make me popular, but I'm curious about, so one of the things we've been hearing a lot about lately, and that I think about a lot as both a council member as well as just a member of this community and a parent with children who navigate our community on foot and on bike, is the number of infractions that are the non-criminal traffic violations that we give out versus the number of stops that we have. So to your point, most of the people we stop, we have a conversation with, we say, you're not making good choices. And I assume that's like speeding, distracted driving, those sorts of things, right? But we give them a warning and we send them on their way. And I guess I'm curious about that, and curious if there's any data or information that maybe you could bring us when we chat next. I know for a lot of years I commuted from Mountlake Terrace to Bothell, and so I drove through Briar every day. And I was going to say there was always, without fail, a police car up there, and the word amongst my coworkers and was you got to make sure you go the speed limit when you go through Briar, because if you don't, you're going to get a ticket. And while I don't have any desire for more members of our community to get tickets, I would love drivers to pay more attention. I think we learned here not too long ago that we just hit, I think a 40-year high in terms of traffic deaths in our state, and we are up like 10% in the last 2 years. Like, that's scary. And so I would love to be able to figure out why that is, but I think in terms of looking at, again, ways that we can prevent bad things versus react to them, I guess I would love to maybe ask that as a takeaway for you in terms of, I don't know if there's information about kind of how to think about that in terms of when we are pulling people over. Does it de-incentivize bad behavior if people know that they're going to get a ticket versus a warning? Or are we keeping track? I guess maybe here's a question in my meandering comments is, so if somebody gets pulled over one time and they're given a warning, like, do we know that if they get pulled over again? Or is there is there a way to know if somebody is habitually creating issues to where they've been pulled over multiple times for maybe, speeding a little bit or, distracted driving?
Yeah, so New World that I showed you with the detective stuff, the officers also use that. There's a mobile version of that.
Okay.
And it does keep track of people when they've been contacted, and officers are able to write in their notes, pulled them over for this, gave a warning for this. So if an officer's being diligent on somebody they pull over and they research the name, they actually can look and see if they've been pulled over for the same thing before or not.
Okay. No, that is good to know, and I guess I would encourage our officers to be diligent. I think particularly if we have folks who are again and again, showing up in a way that creates danger not just for themselves, but other members of our community. That is behavior I would love to find ways to discourage. So I think that's it. Just overall, thank you. Appreciate all of the work. And, again, I appreciate that we live in a community that I feel very safe in. And I get positive feedback and continue to get really positive feedback about the work that you do. So thank you for making that part of my job much easier.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Sonmore.
First, thank you. And we have a joke at our house because we have so many firefighters in the family that they're our heroes. So you're our heroes with a badge. So I'm going to give a shout out to our police because I don't think they hear it enough. The firefighters usually get the glory and police usually get the brunt of the work. So I just want to call that out. And I also want to honor Eddie Thomas, who died 18 years ago last Thursday. The sensitive story, but I have never been to a police funeral, and on 2/28, we had residents from our city line up, little children with flags, when we did his procession to Edmonds, and it was very moving and very touching, and the situation was horrific, but I just wanted to give a shout out, and I can't believe it's been 18 years for him, and so we always have to honor people who have served our community. I have just a couple of questions. Are the DV, I see the reports and it's got me very concerned too. Are the DVs that you count, are they usually from the same person? Because if I think I'm reading it right and remembering, it seems like they're all in one certain area, or is it really spread out quite a bit? And Danielle's probably getting a lot of work right now, and I'm hoping that people know that they can have support because victims really need support. And so that was my curiosity question, and I just have a couple of.
Actually, there are those repeat offenders in any criminal activity. You're going to get the same people do the same thing over and over again. That's part of the phenomena. But also, it's been our observation that a lot of the DV increases are to do with apartments moving into town. These are young relationships in many cases instead of established family relationships. And there's lots of people packed very tightly together. We've seen a significant increase in the domestic violence in apartment living, but that's a phenomenon that's not unusual. It's just sociologically speaking, families that are more embedded in the community and have are more settled tend to be sometimes a little bit get along better. That's not anything that has any high chutes and ladders to it, but it's just an observation. But geographically spread out the city, but of late there's been a very high concentration of domestic violence situations in the apartment, the newer apartment, and that's very, very common. As those apartments become more established, we'll see it move somewhere else.
Thank you. And I know when you squeeze a lot of people into a small confined area, sometimes that happens. We just had an incident up north where the son shot the mother just a few days ago, and then the son actually ended up dying in the pursuit, I believe. And that goes to the comment that you just brought up about, people moving back into households with their parents. A lot of times there's a lot of frustration in that, and that's a very, very valid point that is very, I'll say disturbing, but I'm sure that you've seen it before with just violent people attacking their parents or a family member or a grandparent. You see that. Maybe it's always been around. It's just coming. Sometimes we're more acute to seeing it, or it's coming up. But DV, just my big thing that I always ask the city is never get rid of the domestic violence coordinator. It's worth its weight in gold, especially if you're a victim. My last comment is, well, I actually have two. They're kind of go hand in hand. is, one, have we seen any more incident with the light rail going in? And if you could do me a big favor, and I'm sure you're already doing it, my pet peeve is 48, because I think that, and 212, I think those are going to be magnets for people going extremely fast and looking at slowing down traffic, especially with our city being a thoroughfare into light rail, and looking at traffic changes, you know, in the next however long, looking at before light rail and after light rail of, you know, where people are speeding or they're doing something that I maybe can't even think of, but that's in your area. Has there been any different shifts?
The light rail opening is fairly recent. We've noticed some, you know, anecdotally speaking, some upticks in our contacts down there just because there's more people. I think give it a few more months, I think we can all predict what's going to happen in terms of a change in the character of that particular area of the city. And yes, addressing your question about 48, that is a traffic impact area that we do a lot of enforcement on. It's just, it's narrow. It runs the whole north-south of the city, and people use it to drive too fast. And it's always been that way in the 38 years I've been here. It's always been that way. It's not any better now. So we do write a lot of infractions down there.
Any street calming would help on there?
Any what?
Street calming, I mean, humps or whatever we call them now, speed bumps, you know, stop signs. I mean, just coming here tonight, I don't usually say, but the guy came around the corner to go on 56, and I've never seen a car go so fast, and he didn't have a license plate in the back, and I'm just like, if I would have turned just, you know, like you said, a moment sooner, I don't know what would have happened. And I'm just seeing people that are just taking more, and we probably say that every year. I see people taking more chances every year, but just that one kind of just threw me off, and I was just thinking on 48th, it's so easy when you've got a child at daycare or you've got to get to the light rail and your brain's just on hyper-focus to get to where you need to go, and a dog runs out or you run up on a sidewalk. And I'm just thinking, just to help prevent some more incidents on 48th, if maybe you could come back to us and maybe tell us if there's any way or anything that we could do to slow down the traffic. I know we've talked to the engineer, but some of us have been here a long, long time, and we just know that road so well.
Actually, you're correct. It's more of an engineering question than an enforcement thing. The things that we can do is be present there, do a lot of visible traffic stops, put the traffic trailer out, things like that. Encourage the officers to use 48th as a north-south thoroughfare for them, just to be there. Oftentimes being seen many times being seen just contributes to the caution. If you notice an officer in an area, you might just get your foot off the accelerator on the brake now and then. So that's our plan. As far as traffic calming, I mean, again, that's an engineering question. I think we can all recognize that 48th could use some work in that regard, and it's always been a problem.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. I never want to miss an opportunity when you gentlemen are here. And we're missing one of you. So I wanted to back up and say, first, thank you. You're about 6 weeks early by my recollection. You're usually late October. So the fact that you're able to be here this early and another wonderful presentation, more power to you. I appreciate whatever adjustments you had to do to make that happen. I want to echo everything that I'm hearing in terms of just the thanks that I always want to do. But I wanted to pause and say, you were going to hear this, not two of you, because you'll hopefully get out of here as soon as this is over, right? During our council reports that I was able to attend Cops and Clergy, we shifted up to Linwood. I only bring that up now in this context to make sure you hear this feedback, which is it was so humbling and a proud moment, if you can be both at the same time, to be in, first and foremost, it was a training on trauma-informed care. So just seeing how that is part of the South County police system, because it's not just one department, not just one city, it's all of you doing this work down here in the South County, how that was just amazing to hear, but specifically to hear how Mountlake Terrace is the kind of especially with Danielle, just in general, the work that we're doing here and how respected it is amongst your colleagues, and to have an entire morning of just praise for our police when, if we pause and step out of this room, we still have unnecessary police killings, we still have the tensions in the communities. But again, when I stand in here with you all, I mean it as sincerely as possible. Thank you for your leadership. It starts with you all, and you see that make its way through the department, and then more importantly, people are perceiving it that way, or receiving it that way when you're talking amongst other cities. So really just kind of making that clear. Thank you for that work. I didn't have any questions on the presentation that you had, but I did have a follow-up question in the spirit of things that we advocate for, and then we do it and we wonder what happened to it and never remember to ask. Ballinger Way, we now have the signs that hopefully people use to say, oh, I need to slow down, not let me set a new land speed record. And that's where I'm going with this. Are we seeing the investment that we made pay off, that people are actually now on Ballinger Way saying, hey, this is much better down here. I don't feel as unsafe as I did.
We haven't had an increase in traffic collisions, which is really a good measuring stick. Obviously, the enforcement's another one. Again, that's an area that we do a lot of enforcement because it is narrow. It is an entrance and egress to some fairly high traffic areas. So we haven't seen an increase in traffic collision. That's a good thing. So whatever we're doing seems to be working a little bit. It hasn't gotten any worse, but it has gotten a bit better. But that's actually 48th and Ballinger and Lakeview Drive are the three areas I see the most traffic infractions rather than warnings come in from. So we're doing our due diligence down there.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Councilmember Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your support for our community and your service. Echoing all the council members, I feel very safe in Mountlake Terrace. I know things are happening. To me, just last week, it's nice to get the police reports. I see the behavioral health issues tend to be up a little. I also see that the community outreach and directed enforcement has increased, but that's good. We got 8 zones that we're looking at and focusing on. So given that, that really helps our community by focusing on things instead of just driving by my house. No, I'm just kidding. But I really appreciate the focusing on our community. Also, I've seen in the last month officers helping our homeless population by giving them some food and support, and then giving them a resource to go to instead of staying in the park. That's super duper. I think that's really good. So thank you very much for your help.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
One last comment from me. For those of you that remember our previous prosecutor, Jim Zacher Sr., his service is, he's passed away. I think we're all aware of that. His service is Saturday, September 21st at the Alderwood Community Church at 2 o'clock as a celebration of life. He passed away about a month and a half ago. The whole family will be there, and I've known that family for 30 years, so I'll be there representing the city, but any of you that want to show up are more than welcome.
And where was that again?
It's Saturday, the 21st at 2 p.m. till 4 p.m. at the Alderwood Community Church. It's 3403 Alderwood Mall Boulevard.
Okay.
Informal affair. Don't need to dress up, but we'd love to see you there.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're done. You can go home. All right, then next is the city manager's report, but, oh, there you are.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem, members of council, a couple things to mention tonight. First, I wanted to say that we are in our first year of joining the Welcoming Week organization, and we're sponsoring our first event this Saturday at Terrace Creek Elementary from, I believe it's 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have a great number of vendors that are going to be there, 25. So we're looking forward to that. Also wanted to mention the art show that's going to start on Saturday. Friday night is the introduction, and then Saturday open to the public. Look forward to that every year. What we've been working on is budget. So you will see that coming up pretty soon. We're all putting a lot of time in on that and getting that ready for your review for the next 2-year budget. And then a couple of good news. The Sonics Court, the resurfacing is going to wrap up this week. Hopefully, weather permitting. Everything looks good so far. And we have a date for the employee appreciation breakfast, and that's going to be on December 11th this year. And I'll provide more details on that later, but I wanted to get that date on your radar now. And then lastly, today, several of our team members and council members went to chamber members as well, went to an event with the Puget Sound Business Journal and for the Real Estate Leadership Awards, which we sponsored, the city sponsored. We were able to make some contacts with prospective developers and real estate professionals that can help us implement the economic development strategic plan that you all discussed earlier this evening. So we are making progress on that, and we're looking forward to making more in the future. And with that, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for the city manager? No, I don't see any hands going up.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's see, next is the city council liaison reports. So I will just go ahead and just start from my left with our council member Woodard.
Thank you, Mayor. And mine will be quick. On the 11th, I was at Terrace Talks. Technically, I was online. I thought that was wonderful. My thought was, when we have topics that important, maybe we should break policy and record those ones so you don't have to keep repeating such wonderful information into the ether. I don't know how many people were in the room, but I know that for the topic, we should have had a lot more folks for the chatter that we see in concerns. And here you thought I wouldn't have a running commentary on things. On the 12th, I was at, as I just said earlier, to our wonderful police leadership team. I attended Cops and Clergy, and you already heard my comments around that. And then on the 12th, later that day, I actually did quite a bit on the 12th, but the only one I will bring up again here is I did attend the study session. And then thank you to the city manager. He just told you what I did personally today by attending Puget Sound Business Journal's award ceremony. And I will just say it was a lovely ceremony, so if nothing else, having our name associated as a bronze sponsor couldn't hurt. I got there not as early as I wanted to, but long enough. And in my short period of time there, just randomly where I was standing, a developer walked up that I actually recognized from Everett, which this blew him away because I have that quirky of a memory, which will come back in business, new business. But nonetheless, I had a wonderful conversation. And I will just tell you what he said to me, since he's nameless right now. His words to me were, Mountlake Terrace is way better positioned than Linwood. Why aren't you all making better moves? And I just thought, that's wonderful. And I pushed back. I said, well, you know, we do have that light rail station that you mentioned. And what I will say is, it doesn't help that even when we have opportunities for free advertising, we miss it, which is, if you listen to the light rail, it says 4 stations opening from Shoreline to Linwood, because, you know, it's too many syllables, I guess, to throw one more city in there. And maybe it sounds like it's a longer distance by saying 4, even though 2 of them are in the same city. He got a kick out of that, as did his wife. And that's hopefully starts a conversation, but we'll see. But nonetheless, good use of time. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you for the forward thinking. We also had a powerful, I think it all comes down to print at the end of the day. And there's a wonderful ad in the, I guess that's technically their newsletter, but it looks like a paper to me, that they made sure everybody left with. That will be going out to all of their people. And it is hard to miss, although that's a running joke on the mayor, even though she didn't know that was a running joke on her, because on the train we were like, look at this, and you were looking at something else. Oh, you had to go to know what that was about. done with my report.
Councilmember Murray.
Thank you, Mayor. On the 11th, I also attended Terrace talks about the budget, and thank you to Jeff, our city manager, for always doing a great job distilling down really big and complicated topics into something that is fairly succinct and digestible. I definitely would echo Councilmember Woodard. I think if we can find ways to get more folks able to view those, that would be great. And do encourage people to attend in the future, but I thought those that attended, want to commend them for their really good questions. We took up the full hour, and Jeff was able to come back and answer all sorts of questions about all sorts of things. So really just a thank you to those who attended and answered or asked questions, and Jeff for being ready for anything that was thrown his way. On the 12th, I had my monthly city manager meeting and our work session. September updates from the DEI Commission. The city manager covered them, but would just really encourage folks to get the word out about Welcoming Week here on Saturday. So Terrace Park Elementary is for those who aren't as familiar, is the elementary school right next to the Recreation Pavilion. So we are doing that event in partnership with the Edmonds School District. Big thank you to our deputy city manager and our entire DEI commission who have really spearheaded, this effort. And really the goal of Welcoming Week is to help increase and bring awareness to the importance of welcoming communities, particularly in regards to immigrants. And it's an opportunity to connect immigrants with folks in our community, organizations, resources, programs, as well as other members of the community. So I think it's going to be a really good opportunity both for folks to come and learn, but also to connect with one another, and I think continue to show the type of community that Mountlake Terrace is. So I would encourage you all to join us. Other things coming up. So my children's least favorite week of the year is coming up. It is the week without driving, and that is September 30th through October 6th. And I bring it up now, as I have the last 3 years, because I would love folks to join me, both folks on the council as well as staff, community members, etc. Whether you can join me for the full week or maybe even a day. A decent portion of our community doesn't have access to a vehicle and or can't drive. And we make decisions all of the time, on all sorts of things that impact, folks in our community. I just think this is one other way that we can better understand those in our community, be they young, be they old, be they have the week was actually created, here in Washington and has gone national, but to draw awareness to folks with disabilities whose disabilities prevent them from driving. And so I think it's a really good opportunity, and would encourage, if you want more information, I would love to tell you how I have navigated. It is not always easy, but I learn something every single year, and I've gotten to learn both meet members of our community and learn both the really positive things we have going on in our community in terms of accessibility and transportation, as well as some of the challenges. And I think given we're going through our comprehensive planning process and we have a new light rail station, it's a great year to join the week, or at least join me for a day. Other stuff, I guess going back to our proclamation for the night, I will also call out that part of Constitution Week is National Voter Registration Day. So one of my favorite days of the year is somebody who is a proponent of voting and participating and making sure that your voice is heard. So that was on the 16th. We in Washington State have until October 28th to register to vote. So would encourage you to help get that word out, particularly maybe to young folks who have the opportunity to vote in their first election. We have really cool stuff in Washington where you can actually register to vote when you're 16 or 17, but particularly for those who turn 18 before Election Day in November, it's important to get registered to vote so that you can vote. And I think with that completes my report. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Sonmore.
Does it still work without it? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Last week I had left one, and also the Park and Rec. So I was just going to give you some updates since we don't talk much about left one because we can't. But Park and Rec, we did do reviewed the fee structure for the next 5 years, and that will be coming to council soon. We didn't have much issues with that. And we also talked about 56 years in November that the pavilion's been there. We talked about discounts for residents, scholarship for low income, childcare, and in case you didn't know, this, if you reach a certain threshold, the state will help subsidize some of that childcare in our city. And if we had more room, we could accommodate more children because there is a big wait list, especially for, they call it camps when you're out of school for, you know, a week or during the summer. And then also, if you didn't know, and I had forgotten about this, if you have certain insurance and you're a senior, you could get free swim that your insurance will pay through Medicare, and it's called Silver Sneakers. And I think the insurance was called Optima, or I can't remember, but we could always check with Jeff on that. And we talked a little bit about cost recovery, the 2024 work plan, and the Sonics Court. We had another tree go down in Terrace Creek Park. And we are planting 17 trees in Terrace Creek Park in October. And then we talked about all the list of activities that are going on. And then the Mountlake Terrace birthday, I remember when we had our 50th, we had over 400 people and at the Nile, and it was a party to remember. It was something else. But this year, hopefully we'll have something big for our 75th. But now I understand there's photos, and can the council come in and look at some of those historical photos? I have some people asking about that from the high school and some neighbors wanting to know about their historical home. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Forrest Rita. He is the new chair of Park and Rec. Sorry, I went back. But I just wanted to give a thought and opinion really quick. And it was kind of on my mind, and it's really hindsight now, but we did have a huge event, and I'm not really one to always have the pomp and circumstance. I understand it because I've been on enough events to understand it well. But when somebody comes into our city, such as light rail, and our former mayor and city manager worked so hard to get light rail here, the council wasn't even really a part of it, the celebration. And it's just maybe a hindsight. Council wasn't introduced, and it just felt kind of like an afterthought. I know Rick and I hung out in the back because we kind of felt like we weren't even a part of this, and this was something that the council had worked on for years and years and years, and they were in our city. So I just wanted to point that out.
Councilmember Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. On Tuesday, September 10th, I attended our Left One Retirement Board. And starting on the 8th, and it's continuing, is helping the Arts of the Terrace set up. I keep calling it Arts of the Terrace, but which is Friends of the Arts, but the Mountlake Terrace Arts Commission set up, get all those things going, artists' materials dropped off, items hung up, then the jurors come in and say who's first, second, and third in many categories. And then that brings me to tomorrow night will be the private preview party for the people receiving awards, and the council's invited. It's going to be in chamber here, 6:30 to 7. And then 7 on will be the party over and a preview of the work over at the library. And then it's open to the public, so we'll have a art show from Saturday the 21st to Saturday the 28th. And essentially it's going to be the library hours. So hope to see you there tomorrow night. And luckily, and hopefully you'll enjoy me opening up and emceeing the event. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Payne Donovan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'll start with today and the aforementioned Puget Sound Business Journal event. I thought that was, I was pleased to be a part of it, and really took away a few things in sort of getting a perspective of the, developer, broker, economic development community, and sort of the work that they do, and the, I think, amongst those stories that we heard, well, you and I and a few, and Councilmember Woodard and staff heard while we were there, sort of the work that they do to, help communities sort of meet the vision that they set out for themselves, and to help businesses succeed. And as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned in his remarks earlier on the strategic plan, I think it was helpful for me to see into that world in a way that I don't usually get to see, and I was happy to have noticed and met a few friendly faces there that I wasn't expecting to see, and some of whom I recognized for their work in the city of Mountlake Terrace, which made me feel good and hopeful. Anyway, earlier today, I also attended the YRA Salmon Recovery Council board meeting. Always a roaring good time. Last week, participated in our work session, and I unfortunately missed a few events I would have liked to have been present for last week, but did appreciate, in the last few days, being behind folks out in public or in the grocery line and talking about the budget conversation we had, and as well as previously the conversation we've had about the pavilion. So just kudos to us and staff for having having these conversations out in public. It's never easy to tell quite if your neighbors know what the heck's going on at City Hall, but to hear it in passing and to have folks talking about, especially the pavilion, is really heartening. So I think that also watched the city manager's staff update. I didn't tune in for that, but was pleased to see that there was a record of it that I was able to look at. And then I think that closes out my report, but to Councilmember Sonmore's question about historical photos, I know that Andrew Applewick has a link to some digitized historical photos that the former city clerk and some other friends of ours digitized archival and community members' photos, and just a reminder that a certain community nonprofit got some money from our former county council member to do that work. So hopefully we can get that framed up, maybe literally, some photos for the 75th anniversary, because I know there's a lot of cool stuff out there that community members, new and old, really enjoy looking at. So that's my report.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Wall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real quickly on the, following up on the 11th, also participated in the Terrace talks discussion on the budget, or attended, didn't really participate, watched, enjoyed, appreciated the discussion that we had. On the 12th, also participated in the, did participate in the council work study session. Appreciated the insight and input from the community. As you heard from a very lively discussion tonight, we did listen and started to incorporate some of those issues and concerns that were addressed. But the other thing I'm particularly proud of is on the 10th, we've had a follow-up conversation with the Regional Collaboration Group of South Snohomish County cities. And I want to highlight a couple of things, but again, I'm particularly proud of our efforts and really spearheading this discussion with our neighbors around the South County area because of the budget challenges that we're all going to be facing, and trying to strive for and identify ways that we can partner up, work together, reduce costs, make our cities run more efficiently and effectively by finding areas that we can work together. And we don't all need a paint striper 5 days a week, for instance. So maybe there's opportunities that one of us has a paint striper and we work together. And there's a number of other areas that we've started to identify where we might be able to work together and reduce costs for all of our cities in the South County region. And we'll look forward to having further discussion on that. But one thing I really want to highlight, particularly right now, and I'm sorry that the chief is gone, but I know the city manager is following up with our chief based on the discussions we had, is, there are some significant revenues being collected by the county. And I want to particularly highlight this for us in our conversations with our county council members and in our other hats that we wear. But remember, this county has passed the 0.1% sales tax for mental health services, behavioral health, addressing behavioral health issues. We've also passed the affordable housing tax, 0.1%. That's all being collected to the county. But are we receiving our fair share of that here at the South County region? Or what are those, of those resources that are being collected countywide, how are they using that to help our residents in the South County region? And a lot of us have been asking those questions in a number of different forums and not getting sufficient answers. So what we've discussed at this regional collaboration meeting is we need to come up with a plan that we're going to take to our county council members and ask them for specific areas that we want to have invested in the South County region. So we want to work together with our social embedded workers, our police, on addressing public safety, law enforcement, criminal justice, mental health, behavioral health, services, affordable housing issues, and come up with a plan. And so work together with our partners like Linwood and Edmonds, Volunteers of America and the Linwood Neighborhood Center, with the Linwood's Criminal Justice Center. What kind of a plan, what do we need to do and what do we want to do to serve our citizens with those funds that are being collected at the county level, and take that to our county council members and say, here's what we need in the South County region. We need you to direct those dollars back to our area. So I know that the city manager will be having a follow-up discussions with us on that, and we have another regional meeting in October to follow up. But I'm looking forward to having that plan, being able to present that, share that with you guys so that you're able to have that discussion when you're talking with our county council members moving forward. There's a number of other areas that we are also looking at that we'll have during our budget discussions, I'm sure. But I'm really excited about these efforts and the potential for how we might be able to better economize our cost of government here at the South County area, and B, how we can better utilize the funds that are being collected at the county level and direct those to our residents here in the South County region. That concludes my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so for my report, on the 6th of September, the Linwood Events Center asked me, and I think you forgot to add that to your report, but Councilmember Woodard was also there, to listen to what they want to do to expand the Linwood Events Center and all the cities around it, another regional thing. And then on the 7th, I attended the fair on 44th that Linwood puts on because it's something that, it's something that, I always look to see what other cities are doing, and if we can do that too. It's an expanded version of our National Night Out, but they get a lot of people coming. And I try to do as much as I can in Linwood and Edmonds and so forth, and just kind of see if I can steal anything, ideas, whatever. And then on the 10th, I also attended the Mayor's Council, President, City Manager, Regional meeting at Edmonds. And there's a lot of ideas going on over there, and I think we're going to start getting some stuff done. On the 11th, I was invited by our representative, Cindy Liu, to attend the Seattle City Club event that they had in Seattle. They had a panel. They had 2 different panels. Our Snohomish County Council, Sam Lowe, was on one panel, and Cindy Liu was on the other. So really interesting subject matters and so forth. On the 13th, I attended the Seashore Transportation Forum joint, all 3 King County Transportation Forums meeting at PSRC in downtown Seattle. And it was really a great event. And they're located right underneath, right on top, in the building, right on top of a light rail station. So it's perfect to take light rail to. The next day, on the 17th, I met with Daniel, our Mountlake Terrace Chamber person, who also works at the U District group that is similar to a chamber. And he gave me a tour of what is going on in the U District, and I got a lot of ideas that we could kind of use in Mountlake Terrace. And on the 18th, Metro is opening up a Metro Flex, which is very similar to CT's Zip Car, which is like an Uber that picks you up at home with your Orca card, and then it takes you to wherever you need to go within the little map district. And they said that, and it was located in my old junior high, Kenmore Middle School is what it's called now. And from there, you can get an app, and then it'll take you to the Mountlake Terrace light rail station. And I said, oh, wouldn't the other Shoreline one be closer? The map does not include Shoreline. It goes from Kenmore, Briar, Mountlake Terrace to our station. And so the south part of Mountlake Terrace is in there. Half of Briar is in there. And so that takes care of the people who may want to take the light rail over at Mountlake Terrace, and they would have been driving there. But now they can get that app, and they'll come and pick you up at your home if you're in that map area. And with your Orca card that will transfer onto light rail, you can go downtown. Yes, and they want to expand that too. So hopefully, and if Community Transit expands theirs to the south, hopefully we will take care of our last mile people. And then on the 19th, earlier today, I attended the Puget Sound Business Journal's Commercial Real Estate Awards, where we were the bronze level on there. And I just want to say that one of their top writers, Mark Stiles, was so, he was so impressed with the fact that this group of people from Mountlake Terrace, including city council and staff, came down to this meeting, this event at where he works. He writes for Puget Sound Business Journal, and that we're taking light rail back. And so he's supposed to have tweeted that. I don't tweet, so I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, I just want to say that I've now taken light rail, I don't know how many times this month, and I'll be taking it again several more times before the end of the month, and it has opened up a world for me and everybody else. And I have been watching a lot of people, and I haven't seen anyone walk through without tapping. People are mentioning that they've seen people walk in without tapping, meaning pay, pay for your trip. And there's security all over. There's security at the base, there's security on the platform, and there's security in the cars. And I feel very, very safe. And I even went to Capitol Hill at night because I knew that when I get back to Mountlake Terrace, everything, I felt very, very safe. And that's the end of my report. So, next is new business. Does anyone have any new business? Councilmember Sandmore.
I do. I'm on the Finance Committee meeting, and I didn't get the chance to go to last Wednesday's city presentation about the budget. And I see in our city manager's report that we've dipped into our reserve with the salary survey. And I don't know why we said salary survey. And so I'm just wondering where the budget is. And then I'd also like to have some report outs about the budget committee, the new one that's with the salary commission, or not the salary commission, but looking at what our citizens want with the budget, because we kind of knew that our budget would be bad, and I'm just wondering if we did some of it to ourselves and understanding some of the budget issues that we have. And just being on the budget committee, it would have been nice to have some updates before it went out to our residents, so we're not caught off guard.
Anyone else? Oh, do we, what? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying it looked like the city manager wanted to respond, so I was like, let me give him the space if he wanted that.
Yeah, thank you. That has not gone out to the public. The budget has not. You will see if you see your future schedule, the next meeting not the next meeting at council on the 26th, but the following one on the 3rd is when that will be presented to council. What I talked about on the 11th was where are just general city budget questions, like where our revenues come from, what drives those revenues, and then answered questions. But it was not specifically about the 25-26 budget that you will start to consider on the 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm not sure what just happened there. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with mine, which is, first I want to back up and say thank you to our council and myself for the, what was it described? A lively discussion. I also heard words like animosity, and I want to be clear, if that was coming my way, I'll clear that up so nobody has to go home thinking that. You definitely heard a different voice coming out of this body, but that was the voice of me going over past inactions and kicking myself, nothing about anybody else. That was all directed towards me and an awakening, if you will. That said, during that lively discussion, we were encouraged to do our homework, and I think, oh, that's my language. I love that. So I jumped right in and did some homework. I'll get back to that in a minute. Instead, I want to use this as a teachable moment and say to our audience, or whoever's listening, our residents, I hope, not our audience. Feels like a talk show sometimes. But to our residents, you too can do your homework. And we've set it out there for you because you've heard a lot about, well, we do things and we put it on the shelf and we never see it again. But you know where you can see everything every day? Right on the internet. So if you go to the cityofmountlake.terrace.com, which is your city's page, we've done a wonderful job. And I remember that was one of the first things I saw happen when I joined the council, is we had a refresh, and not just a refresh, we had a completely redo of the website. And since then, we've done it again, because apparently we do that about every 5 years. And it just gets better and better. But what it doesn't do is lose sight of history. So what I wanted to make sure that folks knew, teachable moment, and in the spirit of doing your homework, if you go to cityofmlt.com and go to your city, you'll see that there's a whole section there on agendas and minutes. Now let me pause and just tell you that my first publication, I learned the word veracity, the veracity of statements, of the truth. And I love that word veracity. And it basically just means fact check. That's the easiest way to think about that. You can do that. And let's start with, we had a comment about 2008, how they were long meetings. Here's the beauty of that page. Not only does it give you the agenda, the minutes, we weren't always recording like we do now. We have a YouTube page for that, for the record. You had the audio. It's still on there in the MP3. But they do a step further. They tell you the date and how long it was. So you will see 4 5-hour meetings that she was talking about, that you can do that. You can go back and look at it if you want, but nonetheless, just letting you know, it goes all the way back to 2007. Every single one, because as you heard when I brought this up, the clerk go, oh my gosh, yes, literally that's my job, people, is making sure we don't lose sight of history. It's sitting right in front of you. So just want to make sure that you too can do that. And it's not just the city council, it's the planning commission, it's every commission for that matter that records any of this. So just wanted to put that out there for you to do your own homework. That said, I want to jump to a specific one where we were asked to do our homework. And that was the city council special meeting minutes, September 26, 2019. Now, contextualize, know that that was my 8th month on council. We were talking about my home, which is the town center, and they were going to have me vote after how many months had you all had looking at this document for the record? Years, right? So my 8 months to the years, which is just my way of saying, so I might not get all this right, which is why it's beautiful to have the minutes, because on that 26th of September, 2019, look it up for yourself, you can see how we voted. That's the beauty of it. And it goes all the way down to my whole point is to give Councilmember Ryan his credit. Because when you look at F, which is amendments to official zoning map in the town center zoning map, it motion carried 6-1 with Councilmember Ryan voting no. So that is me acknowledging that he was not making any of this up. It is all on the website, and you are welcome to look at everyone's past decisions. But I would encourage you to go a step further, because the minutes are one thing. It's like looking at MLT News and saying, I must understand it because they wrote it for me. No, a whole bunch of stuff happens that doesn't get picked up. Listen to the audio. Listen to or watch the recording, because you're going to get a lot more richness than just when it came down to the 6-1 vote, because that was F. We had actually done a whole bunch, A, B, C, D, E, before that, which all had implications on each other, because one could argue when you looked at E, amendments to the town center plan action, it says move to adopt an ordinance amending the town center planned action area to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and town center sub-area plan, and repealing and replacing chapter 19.9, including exhibit A. You have to do a little bit more work, but just know that in that 7-0 vote, you agreed to 57th Street. But in F, when it came down to actually agreeing to it, we have a 6-1 vote. So just know there's nuances in this. It's a very hard job, but it's sitting there for you to make sure that we're doing our job the way you want us to. So I encourage you to do this work, do this homework that we were challenged to, and hopefully I just gave you the pathway to learn more about all of us while we're doing this, because at the end of it all, there are 7 votes. Only 4 of them are needed to move whatever the item is or kill the item. And that's pretty important for you to remember. But again, you can travel through time all the way back to at least 2007 and see how your councils have been voting, or specifically how this council has been interacting with each other. That said, I'm proud of this council and what we do. Thank you again for our residents for getting more involved. But at the end of the day, there's a history that we are all responsible for, and 7 different ways of honoring that is what you have to deal with every time something new comes up. And it's just been wonderful to engage in that process. So that is my new business. Hey, everybody, check the website. You can actually track all of what we've been talking about. We don't get to put anything on a shelf that you can't find and put it back on the table for us. Into my new business.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Oh, just that Jennifer should feel really lucky. When I started, the city clerk had to make cassette tapes, and we'd have to buy them for a couple of dollars.
Yeah, I thought it was $1.
Yeah, I think it was $1. Yeah, I felt so bad asking for those.
I still have one.
1 hour, 30 minutes each side, they have to turn it.
Oh, yeah.
Take it out of the cassette.
And hold on. Every hour is a 5-hour meeting with cassette tapes.
You get 5 tapes.
Okay, so anyone else? Okay, we're adjourned.